Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Denise Schwartz, your host. Maybe you know someone like this, or maybe this is you. You have a full-time job outside the home, and then, because of the way life sometimes goes, you're also caring for a loved parent at home while you keep the rest of your family on time, on target, healthy, and happy. Yes, you love caring for everyone, but you feel yourself becoming more uncertain, edgy, anxious, and tired. You're a member, or maybe someone you know is a member of the sandwich generation. Worldmetrics.org reports that the median age of sandwich generation caregivers is 50. 65% of them are women. Sandwich generation caregivers spend an average of 20 hours a week providing direct care for those they love. 72% of sandwich generation caregivers report high or very high levels of caregiving stress. Now, there's an enormous amount of data about how caring for aging parents as well as your immediate family members can lead the caregiver to experience feelings of guilt, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. And there's just as much data about how caregivers need to think about and develop a program of self-care. One more thing to do, think the caregivers when they hear about that. And then they think, who has time for self-care? But studies show that caring for yourself is essential for maintaining your own health. As someone you'll be hearing from soon recently said, you cannot fill from an empty vessel. That empty vessel just might be someone you know, or it just might be you. My guest today is Jennifer Ferrara. She's the primary caregiver for her father, and she holds a full-time job working with older adults. She's going to talk with us today about her own journey as a caregiver. But first, a little more about Jennifer. She's a triple alumna of Bay Path University, where she completed her MBA in 2015. Her professional career in human services spans more than 15 years. She's currently the director of the South County Senior Center, providing support to residents of Deerfield, Sunderland, and Whately, Massachusetts. She also serves on the board of directors for LifePath, Inc., the aging services access point for Franklin County and other communities. In addition, she's the regional representative for the Massachusetts Council on Aging, and she spent more than 7 years dedicated to providing support to military, veterans, and their families. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Denise. Thank you so much for inviting me on today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to have you here. This is an important topic. So let's jump right in, shall we?
We shall.
Okay. I hope that you're willing to do this. Could you tell us your caregiver story?
Sure.
Take your time.
So I've been the primary caregiver for my father, who moved in with me in January of 2024. Before then, at different points in my life, I had also been a caregiver for him when he went through cancer treatment. At the same time of going through a deployment as a spouse.
Oh, boy.
That was in 2010 to 2011. So this was the second journey of being his caregiver during my life. And this has been the more challenging one because while I was aware of certain medical things going on, we hadn't really spent a lot of time together for about 7 years prior to him moving in. We would see each other or chat on the phone, but it wasn't as frequent because, as we all have our own lives, we're very busy, including him. So when he first moved in, things were seeming to go okay. But he liked to just stay home. Sure. Now, while I'm a director of a senior center, I would ask, hey, Dad, do you want to go here? Do you want to try this? Do you want to go to this event? And I would look at all of the things going on in our calendar at the center, and his response was, no, I don't want to be around old people.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say to him, I'm like, but you are old people because old for age is one thing, but we have folks who come to the center who are in their 90s and have this spirit and mentality of someone in their 40s. So age is just a number. It's what you make of it. It's, to me, being quote unquote old, as my father would say, is a mindset. So
right.
he would prefer to stay home, sit on the couch, and do just watch television or sit outside, look at the birds, things like that. And
did you think that might be temporary?
I did. I thought he was just adjusting to being in a new place. And unfortunately, it seemed to get worse from there. Because I do work full time, I wouldn't be home all day long, and he would be home by himself, or sometimes he would chat with, one of the neighbors that he might see outside, but he wasn't doing things to stimulate his brain.
Right.
And the neurological pieces of aging is really important to maintain, regardless of whether you're in your teens or you're an older adult. Because if you don't keep your brain working and engaged on a regular basis, you lose that neurosynapsis that occurs regularly. They find a lot of white plaque with those who have dementia or, Alzheimer's disease. And it's been one of those things that if you keep your brain continuously working, moving, your health stays because you can keep your mental faculties. We've worked with individuals who have come to the senior center with moderate dementia, not a full Alzheimer's diagnosis. And because they're active with physical activity and they're continuously engaged with thinking or watching or talking, they actually sustain their levels or sometimes improve.
Or playing cards. I mean, there's so many things that are going on in that center, and I watch when I drop in every once in a while, and I know who some of those people are who you're referring to, and I watch them play cards, and I watch them go on walks with the walking group, and then I watch one of those people very close to my home when she goes for a walk. And I'm thinking, oh, she's repeating what she's doing when she's at the senior center. This is really good. It's a routine. And we know that routines are really helpful for us as we age. They give us a sense of stability.
Routines are really good for anyone. I mean, if you have a pet at home, you can see how rigid they are, where they like to go on their walks at a certain time and eat at a certain time. And it's the same, as a human being. We thrive that way. But it's sometimes, though, when we're continuously alone or sedentary and can repeat that activity or lack thereof, it can have a negative, detrimental effect on you. So it's really important to look at how you're engaging your person that you're taking care of if you are a caregiver.
So what did you do? How'd you do that with your dad?
He loves music. So we went to a lot of concerts. Tanglewood is a great place to go for very inexpensive seats if you go on the lawn. One of the great things that we have in Deerfield is Treehouse Brewing.
Right.
And you can go to concerts there that aren't overly expensive. I know I'm going to a few again this summer.
You take your dad to Treehouse?
I have.
I love that.
Not, but for the concerts, we're not big drinkers, so I don't go all the time, but it's just, to go for the engagement and the music.
Right. And you're outside.
Yes.
Which is also really very helpful.
It is. And I also really engaged with his bird watching. When I was a little girl, he would take me places. We would bring binoculars. And he had an original Audubon book from the 30s, 40s, or 50s.
Wow.
And he would go through and he shared with me later, how they did that because the bird was no longer alive. And I was like, okay. So when I would see a creature, usually birds or whatnot with him, we would talk about them. And so I kind of reversed that as he grew older. We would talk about bird calls and what did you see? And what did you think of this? And, we would talk about, is that usually here or not here? So it was trying to find things that he really enjoyed. So music, car shows, give a shameless plug for our informational fair and cruise night that we're having.
Here she goes.
Next week on August 19th from 4 to 6:30 at Sunderland Elementary School. And I say that because men are least likely to look for resources when it comes to mental health, physical health, or any other services that they could be qualified for, regardless of age. And that's one of the reasons we came up with that. What engages men is a car show, a cruise night. So going to look at classic cars. Oh yeah, we have a lot of women who come. We have women who will go and present their classic cars, which I really enjoy seeing. And it's a great way to engage, but because sometimes they bring a family member or bring friends, they go and they look over and, I'm going to talk with my community partner. I'm going to find out about these resources. So we were looking at ways to engage people. And I had my father in mind when we were talking about that. And we came up with this idea about this is our 5th year doing it. Because before my father, moved in with me 2.5 years ago, I used him as my guide. Like, well, what did my dad enjoy? What did my grandfather enjoy?
I love that.
And you have to go back because I have a perspective of one way and you as a caregiver have a perspective of one way. And you really have to look at, well, what does the person I'm taking care of really enjoy? Do they like painting? Do they like riding a bicycle? Do they like cars? Do they like going on a boat? Obviously, you're considering safety, but a lot of people are still mobile that have mental faculty issues. But, there are some people who have mobility issues. So you have to find places that you can go that are friendly, for walking engagement and things along those lines. Those are all the things to consider. What's the safety of the person I'm caring for going to be? What's my safety? Because what
do you mean about that?
Your safety? Well,
as a caregiver, you have to think about your own safety when working with the person you're taking care of?
Yes, at times.
What do you mean?
If they're limited mobility, if they have a fall, how does that impact you? Are you going to be on a walking path in the middle of the woods and a person falls? How are you going to physically be able to move them? Are they going to be in a wheelchair? Are they using a walker? Are they using a cane? So are you going to hurt yourself if you lift someone? So you have to think about all of those factors.
I have a question.
Sure.
I haven't had to do this because my parents lived 500 miles away. So I didn't have to do that. And when they came to visit, they were still very active and okay, and I didn't have to think about that. But how do you, as a caregiver, or how did you learn how to think about safety and what you would do? I mean, are there courses? What do people do? How do they find out?
There are a lot of resources in the community. Check with your senior center. Regardless of where you live, there's usually a resource, like an organization such as LifePath. There's Western Mass Elder Care. You can call and you can talk to people and you can ask them to come do an evaluation of your home. What should you make for modifications? My house is built in 1900, so I have sloping floors. My father liked to furniture surf, and that is where, like, when you're raising a child, like a toddler, they're grabbing onto the couch when they're walking. Well, sometimes as we age and we're stubborn and don't want to use a cane or a walker, we can use our furniture to balance on. So, there's those things to consider. Should you put a railing in your bathroom to help someone get up off the toilet? Should you put a railing to come in the house? Should you modify and put a ramp? There are so many factors to consider. Is it safe for them to get up in the middle of the night? What's the walking path from their room to the bathroom? Are they going up and down stairs? Is there, a balance issue? Is their balance really so bad that they need to be on one floor? Is that possible in your home? Massachusetts passed ADU laws where you can put an accessory dwelling unit in your yard to build. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. But if you added one onto your home, how is that going to work for financial pieces and everything else?
Yeah,
and if you're a caregiver who, a lot of people, you mentioned the median age being around 50 or so, I've seen a higher percentage in their 40s because you still have little ones at home, or maybe you have a teenager, and then you now have a caregiver or a parent that you're caring for, because for myself, I'm 22 years older than my son. My dad is 25 years older than me.
Oh, right.
But there are people who, have a larger age span. Some people waited later in life to have their children, so maybe they had their children at 40, and now that their kids are 40, they're now 80. And how does that look for them?
Boy.
People, start their families later in life, or there's a second marriage, or there's all sorts of variables that happen. But getting back to your question about resources, I think checking with your aging service access point, your senior center. There's also support groups through your doctor's office. If you're the person taking your parent or whomever to a primary care appointment, you can ask for resources. Doctor's offices and hospitals around here in Western Mass or all Massachusetts have a social worker on staff too.
This is really good. There are a lot of resources, but I want to ask you this. What is the phrase? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yes.
All of these resources are here. But I have heard from some of my acquaintances that, oh yeah, I'll call, but, and you know what they're saying? I don't want to do that. It's too much work. I already have so much to do. I can't do one more thing. And they're just going to tell me they have this service. And then what do? I just need help right now, but oh no, maybe I don't. This head thing about, I don't know what to do, but I think I can do it on my own. What can you tell people about that?
Okay.
You're laughing.
I'm laughing hysterically behind the scenes here very quietly because...
Was that you?
I know all the resources. My bachelor's is in psychology.
Sure.
I took a lot of classes on this, but I'll tell you something. When you're in the thick of it and you're in the middle of something and you're busy, you're not stopping to think of what you know. You're not stopping to ask. It took me almost 1.5 years of my father living with me to reach out to LifePath, and I'm on the board of directors.
I know.
And I am the director of a senior center. And the reason being is that you think it's fine. You think you've got a system down, you've got a routine, it's going great. And then what happens? They decline, or there's a medical issue that arises and you're like, okay, what am I doing now? While I have siblings, and here's the other thing I want to put out there. Taking care of family can be very difficult because sometimes there's a history, with your parents. Or a partner. I'm going to talk about parents from my perspective for this particular segment. I have a very complicated relationship with both of my parents because they were not always the nicest people. And so when you're in that situation and you're trying to think of, well, what am I going to do? How is this working? You can't necessarily think that senior housing is, and in getting resources to go into senior housing is going to be a solution. Why, you ask? Because the wait list for senior housing can be up to 10 years, depending on what community. And I'm not exaggerating.
So you looked into that? Oh,
he's been on lists. People who come into center are on lists, but 10 years. So imagine, I'm 50 now. When am I going to retire? Am I going to be on senior housing? You got to look at all the variables.
You have to think of that now, actually, don't you?
Yes.
If the waiting list is that long.
So people who come into the center who say, hey, I'd like to get on this list, and they're 70, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to put you on these lists, but I'm going to suggest you get on multiple because you don't know what's going to happen. So long story short, with that piece, we were in line for different things and for senior housing for my father. And when it came into, we've got to get all this paperwork together. I had that. Great.
You did, or your siblings saying that?
No, this is my father saying I have this paperwork. No, he did not have the paperwork. So you have a turnaround time, and then you're now going to Social Security, which a lot of people don't realize you have to make an online appointment. So a lot of older adults who don't have access or who have memory issues,
they're not going to do that.
They're not doing that. How do they get this information? They lost their Social Security card, or they need a birth certificate, to prove various things. So there's all this preparation that really needs to be done ahead. And where I was going with this about complicated relationships, I love my father very much. He's human, just like I'm human.
Yeah. We're not perfect.
No, none of us are. And so, but I'm the only, out of the three of us, I'm the only one caring for him at all.
I hear this a lot.
And, that can happen due to people living distance, or that can happen because of relational dynamics.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, he went about 2 months ago into long-term care because he had a medical issue and it was not well, and there was no way that I could leave him home alone anymore. So you have to look at the different variables of your situation for those who are listening. How does this affect your mental health?
Talk about that. This is like really important. We wanted to talk about self-care, and people say, really and truly, I've heard people say, I don't have time to think about that. But your own mental health is just as important, or you can't effectively help the other person.
Yes, that is so true. So given my dynamic with my parents, I developed eating disordered behavior, and I've been in recovery for 7.5 years. I'm no longer engaging, and I've went through processing that. And I think that's really important because as a child, that was my coping skill. So having my father, who was part of the reason I developed eating disorder behavior, moving into my home,
oh my gosh,
was very stressful. And I increased therapy sessions because therapy is for everyone, and it does not matter if you are thriving at whatever you're doing, because that's an hour of whatever time frame you engage, that you can go in and you can talk with someone about what you're feeling and thinking, and there's no judgment. I really say that. Unless you're threatening to harm yourself or others, it's really beneficial to go, because you're able to get out all your feelings and have that engagement back and forth of like, I'm not crazy for thinking this, or I'm not doing this, but I need to just remember all the positive things that are going on in my life. Because when you're in the thick of it with caregiving, you have so many demands and so many people pulling from different directions. And if you're sandwich generation where you're raising your children at home, you may have a child in high school who's going to all these sporting events, or even younger, and you've got to be this place, that place, make dinner, make meals, do laundry, do housekeeping, and take care of your person who may have a numerous amount of medical appointments to attend.
How can you do it?
I'm grateful that I had used sick time when I had to take my father to different doctor's appointments, or I have a schedule where sometimes I would work later if I needed to do something. So, but what if you work a job that isn't flexible? What if you are working somewhere where you're in a manufacturing type of a position, or you have to physically be doing something present? And what if you have your own medical issues or other things? So you taking the time out to refill yourself is really important, because when you have nothing left to give and everyone needs a piece of you, you crash and burn. And it's really important to not get to crashing and burning, because then you're no good to them or yourself. And that's what a lot of people miss. Is
that because we feel guilty thinking about ourselves when so many other people need us?
Yes. I think it has to do with I can do it, because a lot of us, especially Gen Xers, my generation, who kind of falls in the sandwich generation right now at this time, we're kind of like, hey, figure it out on your own. And
I can do it. I can do it. And if you can't, then that means failure.
Yes. And who wants to admit failure?
You're right.
No one.
No one.
But we are human beings. We need to eat. I started carrying snack protein bars in my bag, because I never knew when I was going to be somewhere I wasn't going to be able to eat a meal.
Oh my gosh.
I carry bottled water with me. Let me tell you, I know where bathrooms are in different medical facilities.
Sure.
Because you're constantly going to places. And then, there's a middle of the night emergency room visit. The last time that happened, the ambulance came and I let him go alone. I called and spoke with the nurse's desk because I needed sleep. I needed to go to work the next day if it wasn't a true emergency, and I couldn't do it. And I felt guilty because I have always gone to all of those appointments and I've always been there. But I just knew it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I knew that they just needed to do a battery of tests. I figured it was going to be another kidney stone, because one of the things that older adults don't always do is drink enough fluid, water. other fluids to hydrate you. And I would constantly put reminders. And even after I finally asked for help from LifePath, and we had an agency sending aides 2 to 3 times a week for, whatever hours that he was approved for, they would, leave me messages or give me a note of some kind of saying, hey, I was able to get him to eat this today, didn't want to drink, didn't do this, didn't do that. So when I got home from work, it was, hi, how was your day? And, I wouldn't get into probative questions right off the bat, but I'd be like, oh, so, I see you've got a bottle of water. When did you start that? And he's like, oh, whatever. And he would give me a time frame, and I knew that it had been given to him at like noon, and here it was at 6 o'clock, and he maybe got through a quarter of it. So I knew his fluid intake wasn't good. And you try all sorts of things. I've seen protein water in the market, and I've brought that home, and sometimes that'll fly and
sometimes not.
And, trying to drink those shakes. He had a negative connotation associated because of his father.
Sure.
So you're not carrying just your own baggage. You're carrying their baggage and whatever baggage, they've gotten from other people. No. And it's a trickle-down effect. And that's why the mental health piece comes back in. And support groups for yourself as the caregiver, in addition, is really key. For those who have memory impairment for their caregiver, several entities around offer memory care cafes. We don't at the South County Senior Center.
I was wondering about that. But, maybe we should.
We have been.
You do a lot. I'm not saying that we're not doing enough. I know what your calendar is. We're doing a lot.
No, I was actually saying that we did different surveys and different reports for aging-friendly and dementia-friendly practices, and now we're in the process of implementing. But for those who actively need it, there are senior centers within Franklin County and other surrounding areas that do offer those. And it's important because people need a break, and they need somewhere they can go and bring their person at times, because not everyone has someone for respite or support.
That's right. I wanted to ask you something, though, and it goes back to what you were saying that, I guess you called the ambulance. Your father had a medical emergency, and that time you decided not to go with him. Mm-hmm. What changed in you to allow that to happen? Because that's critical that people get to that point. Trusting the people who can care for him, thinking that I'll get my sleep and I will keep checking in to make sure everything is okay. What changed for you at that moment?
I was mentally and physically tired and exhausted, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And
so you got to that point.
Yes. And burnout is very, very something that I was very close to. And
it worked out okay, though. That's the thing to think about, right?
Yes, because in my previous engagements going to that emergency room, I knew he was going to get good care.
Okay.
Even if there was different staff on, whatever night of the week he went, I just knew he was going to be okay because he was where he needed to be, and I could not solve the issue he was having at that point in time.
That's where I wanted to go. Sometimes we cannot really do the work, but we think we can.
Yep.
And you have to have that realization. Let somebody else do it. That must be so hard, though, because you want to take care of that person, but there's a point where you can't.
I was at the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I'm good at compartmentalizing, I think, because I was married to a service member. So
right.
I got used to deployments and just, okay, I got to focus on X, Y, and Z, for three deployment cycles. Right. And I got to the point where I realized I needed a break because work was very demanding and
so was your home
demanding.
life. Yeah.
And but you have to stop and you have to really take stock of yourself of what can I handle at this point? And I just honestly could not do it anymore. Where that was the visit where I basically said he was not safe to be home by himself all day, even with support coming in 3 days a week. It wasn't enough. He was forgetting to eat. He was forgetting to drink. And that is what caused, his issues physically. And now that he's in a long-term long-term care facility. He's eating 3 meals a day and some snacks, and then he'll complain he's not getting enough or he doesn't like what he's getting. But he's doing better, and he'll tell me, he'll ask, when can I come home? And I redirect, and he's usually okay. He's usually good with that. But I don't get into the thick of it with him, because one of the reasons he's doing better is because he has someone there giving him meals 3 times a day. Even if he only eats a little, he's eating more than what he ate at home, and he's drinking regularly, and he has people watching what he's doing, and he's doing physical therapy, and he's engaging with people all day, where I don't have the capacity to do that. No, even if he had wanted to, even if I had gotten him to go to the senior center with me, I think that would have helped some, but at the same time, it wouldn't have been the one-on-one that he's getting now. Even though he's in a nursing home setting, people see him every day or engaged with him every day,
Right.
and he has a routine, and that's really important, where my hours, if I have events in the evening, or
You couldn't have done it.
I'm going to say this being selfish, I wanted to go out to dinner with friends once in a while, or just do something different. I would come home later and he wouldn't have eaten dinner, and trying to get him to even eat dinner at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, or even 9 before I was going to bed, because, it got to the point where he was putting ceramic plates in the oven.
Oh, yeah.
Or leaving the burners of the stove on as you walked away. And we have propane in our home. We don't have electric. So there's a fire hazard. Or there's, I took the pan off the burner, but I didn't shut the burner off.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it was like, okay, you can't use the stove anymore. And how do you take that off? And how do you do this? And then,
Jennifer.
I was grateful. He had a pickup truck. He liked to tinker on. And there was a situation with the alarm. So it would kept draining the battery. And I took him to get a new battery. I took him for this. And I was so grateful that the truck just wouldn't work.
Right.
Because then I didn't have to worry about him driving. Because, that's another issue that people face, is how do you take the keys away, or how do you get them to not drive anymore? And I never said he couldn't drive. I even took him to get his license renewed.
Oh, good. Make him feel good.
Yep. But the truck didn't work, and I always kept my keys.
Now, don't you think
away.
that's a different kind of intervention there? Something else said, the truck's not going to work.
Yes.
We can't have this happen.
I agree, because the last major stroke he had, he was driving and he hit somebody, and both him and the person were thankfully okay. But, it totaled the vehicle he was in. And I was just, this was before he came in to live with me, but I was just amazed at that he was physically okay. But he refused medical care once again, which is why we ended up in the space we're in, because he had the mindset of, I can do whatever I want to my body.
He was very stubborn, it sounds like.
I can do whatever I want to my body. I don't care about my blood pressure. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. And, you have to be mindful, because you're leaving that for your children or friends or family who have to take care of you.
Wow. Jennifer, it sounds like so much. You've shared so much, and I'm really grateful. It was very personal. I'm really grateful that you did that. What do you want people to take away from this?
You're not alone. I think that's really important for people to understand. They're not alone in this journey, because we go through every day and we think, who could be dealing with this situation?
Right.
Who could have a negative relationship with their family? I have girlfriends who have phenomenal relationships with their family. And then I have some who have similar like me and, not so great. But I don't do it because of my father. I do it because of me. I do it because of the type of person that I am. And it's important to reach out for help, even if you think you know everything. You don't.
You don't.
You don't. And people are there to help you. Even if insurance pays for it, or they have the money to pay for it. There are so many avenues. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, because you know your limits.
We need to say that again, because our culture doesn't really say that for us.
No, it does not say it for us. Asking for help is a sign of strength.
So I want to thank you for saying that again.
You're
I want to
welcome.
say something, because we do have to, I want to have another conversation with you. This has been very helpful, and I hope when people listen, they say, oh, okay, she did that. I can do that. I hear what she's saying. But I know that services are important. I love what you said. Therapy is for everyone. You can go, you have someone to talk with. But I remember 2 weekends ago, I ran into you at one of our local farm stands. And you and I had always talked at the senior center about projects we were doing and that sort of thing. But this time, we just had a conversation. And when we were done, you said, I just needed that. And I wanted to say, we do have to get professional help sometime, but sometimes I think it's really good just to talk to the people we know and just open up and say, this is what's happening to me right now. What do you think? I left there, I drove home and I thought, that was really helpful for me too. Thank you for doing that for me. I don't have the situation you have right now, but you never know.
No.
You never know what's going to happen to your partner or your friends or whatever. So I think that you exhibit something that's really important. And it's this openness and this willingness to talk about things that are happening to all of us as we get older. And I'm thinking about you with a parent that you care for, and then you go to work with all of the older adults, and you are still beloved by, well, I was going to say all of them, but let's be real. Not everybody loves everybody. You are a beloved person in that senior center. You exhibit something that's really important, and I can see it on your face right now as I'm looking at you. She's laughing.
Thank you.
I really think that what you're doing is so wonderful, not just for your dad, but for you. And then before we leave, and you're going to have a few final words, I just wanted to say one of the things that you did tell me that you do for yourself is that you dance. And I like to dance. So I always want to get a plug in for dancing and how helpful that can be. Listen to music.
Yep. Dancing is really important. Your body's nervous system, and one of the things that I suggest that you can do, it sounds really awkward, but in addition to dancing, when you're driving in the car, stick your tongue out and touch the bottom of your chin as far down as you can with your tongue. And doing that for up to 60 seconds can help reset your vagus nerve.
I heard about that.
Yes, and your vagus nerve is tied to your emotional system network in your body. You have your parasympathetic and your vagus for your nerves.
Right.
And dancing also helps to get out your emotions and your trauma. Whatever it could be. A trauma could be a minimal accident or loss of a pet. It doesn't have to be a huge event in your life.
No, it could just be worrying about your next day
Exactly.
and what it's going to be and how am I going to face this? It can be anything.
And am I going to be good on the radio today? Or, but the whole thing is that your body truly remembers everything that you've ever experienced. You could have a positive interaction or a negative interaction, and your body puts that together. So moving your body with dance and just being free and not worrying about being judged. Just do it in your kitchen, your bedroom, your basement, wherever you have this space. Put a good song that you love to move your body to and just move it. There's so much release of that emotion. Your body is not meant to be rigid and to sit all day. It's meant to move and to go. And the more you listened to your intuition and your physical being, the happier you can be.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to ask Alex to do something. Well, no, first I want you to do something, and then we're going to go. Do the put your tongue out thing. Okay, that's how you do it. Alex, take a photo of that, please. Okay, now I see. I'm going to try. Do it again. Okay. All right.
Yep.
And then there was something, I forget what the other thing was. But this is what, Alex, turn on some music. We're going to get up and we're going to dance, and then we're going to go, okay?
Sounds wonderful.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
See you real soon.
Yes, you will.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819 if you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.